Symphony that was on the trip to Taiwan. You wouldn't know that, but that's the question.
Well, you can look at the Facebook post. The mayor can confirm that. It looks like there were one or two who went on that trip to Taiwan. And it's also important to know that the Johns Creek Symphony Orchestra, who is the body behind the Performing Arts Center, has a board member on the city council and another board member running for the city council. So they are getting very engaged in the city for the purposes of this Performing Arts Center. But that's more for the mayor to speak to. But what you've seen on social media, there were one or two that accompanied him.
Yeah, that's the question.
Yeah, I mean, again, we can try to make the trip to Taiwan out to be something untoward, but there was Marilyn Margolis, the retired CEO of Emory Johns Creek, and Ting Chu, who is a native of Taiwan and a Johns Creek resident and philanthropist in our community. Yeah, we went there, and it was a very enlightening trip. I actually feel very strongly that it made me a better mayor because I got to see a society organized in just a completely different way. But again, there was no taxpayer funds that went towards that. And I don't know, Kelly, I'm kind of starting to feel like you're probably not a glass half full kind of person. I mean, just throw a barb out at a person that's on city council that is also a member of the board of the Johns Creek Symphony and try to make that sound like something untoward. I just think it's irresponsible and it's not fair. That person is trying to serve, just like my trip to Taiwan was intended to further best my service to the city. I think it's unfair and really just, I don't quite understand this constant desire to try to take something basic and good and try to turn it upside down into something bad.
Okay, John, can you explain your understanding of the current budgeting process in Johns Creek?
Sure. So, basically, as soon as we pass a budget, the staff, they begin working on the next budget. It takes quite a while. The city manager will go to the departments and say, let me know all of your wants. Let me know everything that you're interested in. It's not necessarily their critical needs. It's not necessarily their top priority requests. It's everything. And that's their process. We're going to throw everything up against the wall, and we're going to compare all that wish list from community development, from police, from fire, from IT, from human resources, all the different departments, 15 different departments. And they work together collaboratively as a staff and as department heads to start compare and contrast of one department head's project versus another. And through that process, they start determining which ones are actually probably necessary to move forward to the budget that gets recommended to the mayor from the city manager. Now, it has been made out to be something that is not appropriate, that all of the different things that these different departments are coming forward with are not necessarily reaching my desk. I do not want, or let me say it this way, I want the city manager to play the role of winnowing down those projects that have more merit than others. And I cannot imagine what this job would be like if the 7 council members were given every scrap of paper with every idea from every different department. As was said earlier, that is not the kind of government that the city of Johns Creek has. Our charter puts upon the city manager the role of presenting a budget to the mayor. I get to put my thumbprints on it, and then I send it on to the council.
Thank you. Kelly, can you explain your understanding of the current budgeting process in Johns Creek?
Yes, I will, but I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna talk about where he thinks I'm so negative. If we had transparency into what was going on, you wouldn't be negative. So let me talk about that council member that is on the board for the Johns Creek Symphony Orchestra. When the city came to cast their vote, do we put this this Performing Arts Center referendum on the ballot or not? She didn't recuse herself. So of course she voted for it. And so I believe that if you have a conflict of interest there, you need to recuse yourself, and she did not. So it is inappropriate what she did. So now let's talk about the budgeting process. The mayor explained exactly what's going on right now. This is not the way, as mayor of Johns Creek, that I will have the budgeting process. It is not for the city manager to decide what the priorities are. You elect a mayor and a council to decide that. It is the city manager's responsibility to pull those requests together, and then the city council gets to evaluate it, and they get to talk about the priorities. It is unacceptable that city council members have to complete an open records request to get what he is hiding in the budget, to be able to know what the police and the fire are requesting. So I want full and open transparency. I want department heads to have a seat at the table. They can bring in what they have already prioritized. We can hear everyone, and then the city council decides who you elected. Not a non-elected appointed person deciding what is our priority and what's in the best interest for us. When that happens, you get what is going on right now. You get information that was withheld so you can push through a performing arts center, because that's your number one strategic priority, arts and culture, on the website. I will give the mayor one thing. He's sticking to his priorities. The budget reflects it.
Thank you. Kelly, what have you done personally to make Johns Creek safer?
Oh, I have, when I was on the council, I funded everything for public safety. I have worked on a massage parlor ordinance, and I helped with transportation and with safety initiatives by funding the light at Bravo and Nesbitt Ferry. And so I want to talk about that just for a second. In our transportation T-SPLOST dollars, to fix that corridor, according to the mayor's budget, would take $11.1 million, and it could have been done. And in the T-SPLOST update that he gets, it says that corridor has a high number of accidents, has traffic delays, and is unsafe for people turning left out of their neighborhoods. But guess what? Instead of fixing that corridor, nothing's been done on there since I left the council in 2014. But we did divert $12.8 million from T-SPLOST into that boardwalk park behind City Hall. That's where the money went. Just think, we could have improved and enhanced the safety there. So those are the things that I have done on safety, and I'm very proud of that record.
John,
All right.
what have you done personally to make Johns Creek safer?
Well, first off, yes, we are the #1 safest community in America. I have told you before about the different stats. More police than we've ever had in our history, 36% increase in funding for our public safety departments. Strengthen laws to handle the problems that we were having 4 years ago. I want to go back for a second, because I think we've hit the public safety thing. Regarding the orchestra and the council member, it is so unfair to cast aspersions that you are, because you know that the standard for the conflict of interest is if the member has any financial or other personal gain to be had. So that is very irresponsible. And I'll go back to the report in the situation with Bogner. Bogner was literally abusing the living daylights out of our ethics. And that was not an issue. That conflict of interest was not an issue. And as far as, this whole idea about the public safety and what has been done personally, it is emblematic of this entire debate about public safety Do I think that my opponent is fear-mongering and misrepresenting? Absolutely. Nothing represents this better. And I'm going to say this to her supporters. Many of us are friends a long time. We've known each other a long time. When there is a kickoff and you are told a dramatic story about how she was out in the middle of the night and witnessed a drug deal, was out in the middle of the night putting up signs that witnessed human trafficking, do you think it's strange that there was never a 911 call or a police report made? Could it be just political posturing?
Okay, John. Public transportation. What are your thoughts about public transportation in Johns Creek? Yes or no? Would you support local bus service? Yes or no? Would you support express bus service to and from Johns Creek via the 141 corridor? Yes or no? Would you support future public rail service to Johns Creek?
I've been consistent my entire council and time as mayor opposed to MARTA simply on the basis that it's not utilized. You see the bus that comes up our way from the Doraville station. There are people on it. You don't see people getting on the bus to go back to Doraville. I grew up here in Atlanta. I think that MARTA probably needs to focus on that area inside the perimeter. I just don't think that it's a match for the city of Johns Creek. I think that there are advantages to not being, not having more MARTA in Johns Creek. I think that's pretty simple.
Kelly, public transportation. What are your thoughts about public transportation in Johns Creek? Yes or no? Would you support local bus service? Yes or no? Would you support express bus service to and from Johns Creek via 141 corridor? Yes or no? Would you support future public rail service to Johns Creek?
We are not that kind of community for public transportation. That's not who we are. And having those big buses come in and out of Johns Creek like that would affect our roads. There's something called PQI, Paving Quality Index, and so they would generate greater wear and tear on our roads. I'm going to take the balance of my time to set the record straight again, y'all. So let's talk about what he's talking about when I was out putting out yard signs with a cousin. So yes, we did come across a massage parlor that had the lights on and the cars in front. No, John, I knew it was a safety issue and I wasn't going to go in there and watch what they were doing. But if we had more police on the roads, it wouldn't be an issue. And yes, we did see a drug exchange, and guess what? They walked off and went away. So what am I going to report? If we had more police patrolling and more public safety, we could deal with those issues. Roswell is having the very same issue. Peachtree Corners is having the very same issue. That's why they are adding their own police force. So you can make light of that all you want. I'm not saying anything for political fodder, but that is the truth. So there you have the rest of the story.
Okay, Kelly. Restaurants. Johns Creek often seems to be a revolving door of failed restaurants, especially franchise restaurants. What would you like to see happen to make the restaurant business thrive in our city?
So we need restaurants. Restaurants is that's a very tough business to make a go of. But what we need to do is to give them the support that they need. So there are a couple of things that we could do, probably a little bit better. I'm not criticizing anything that's going on in the city because I think part of it is that Johns Creek has high rents, and then I think part of it is everything costs more these days, and you're selective maybe when and where you go out to eat. So I think what has to happen is that we give them all the support that we can, and then it's the open market that's doing the rest of it. So how are our requirements, our processes, our compliance? Working with the chamber, the economic development arm of the city. And then for startups, could we reduce fees and maybe have some temporary abatements? It's a very tough situation, but I think part of it is driven, a large part of it is driven by the economy and kind of what we're seeing, maybe a cool down in what we've had with inflation. So it's a tough business anyway to be in. I don't know that there's just like an easy answer for that. But we want to make sure that they, from the city's perspective, that we can support them with whatever they need.
John, restaurants, John's Creek often seems to be a revolving door of failed restaurants, especially franchise restaurants. What would you like to see happen to make the restaurant business thrive in our city?
Personally, I'm looking very forward to Whataburger coming in. You can tell I like hamburgers. Just so you know, I know there's been a question about what's going in right there with the old Wachovia Wells Fargo Bank. That's going to be a Whataburger. It is obviously something that we want to help just create a positive business environment. I think that part of our issue, when I think about revolving door, I'm thinking specifically about State Road 141. That one particular location seems to have like a curse on it. I think that's been probably 10 or 12 different restaurants since we've lived here for 20 years. But from a city perspective, it is a problem in the sense that we don't have that many office workers in that part of the city. That's why I think that the town center is going to do very well, because you're going to have that mix of restaurants and office day workers. I think that will be symbiotic, and they should do pretty well because of that. I think that's a big part of the problem down there, and I don't have necessarily anything that I can think of that I would try to change, specifically from a government perspective in that area, other than just I want us to have a good, healthy business environment, make it as easy to operate a business in Johns Creek as possible.
Okay, here's what we're going to do. And we're just going to reverse the order from the beginning. We'll give you a 5-minute wrap-up each. And you went first the first time, so Kelly, 5 minutes, why you? And then we'll let John, and then I'll allow them to do something they haven't let them all done. Go ahead.
Mr. Corrigan, I want to thank you and the Goldbridge community for hosting this event tonight, and I thank the mayor for being here as well. I thank all of you for being here. So there are two very different choices on the ballot for Johns Creek in November, and we're going to go in one of two very different directions. And this is from my perspective, what I believe forward together is. I believe forward together is higher crime, according to the police chief. I believe forward together is higher density, higher fees and expenses, and higher city staff turnover. I believe it is more debt and more congestion. I believe it is fewer first responders per capita. I believe it is no transparency and a divided city and a divided city council. I believe that it is wasteful spending. I also believe that it is choosing a performing arts center over public safety. And I believe that it is listening to outside interests and special interests. For me, it is always going to be the taxpayer first. It's always going to be public safety first. It is always going to be funding our critical services first and our essential services. It's going to be prioritizing our needs over our wants, protecting our quality of life. And it's going to be unifying a city council, and city staff. And it's going to be broad community engagement where I want to hear from the public. Those are the two biggest differences in our campaigns. So I ask for your vote for Mayor of Johns Creek on November 4th. Thank you so much.
I would agree that this campaign is about whether or not we keep moving forward together or we go back. We have enjoyed 4 years of calm, of consensus building. We've had 4 years of relative quiet and low drama when it comes to the city council. Before that, we had a city government that was full of drama, full of noise, scandal. It was not unusual to open up the newspaper and see headlines that made you embarrassed. we had noise before. We've got a lot of noise now. It does not feel like our community is unified right now. And how could it be? If you have got so much misinformation being pumped in it, I mean, some of this stuff sounds salacious. 57 parking spots for the Performing Arts Center. I had someone at one of my meeting greets say, is it true that there are only 57 parking spots at the Performing Arts Center? And I said, in the immediate to the building, yes. But we did that on purpose because we have City Hall across the street with 300 parking spots. We have agreements with all the surrounding office building property owners that adds up to over 1,000 parking spots. So which is it? Is it we're being too frugal? Or that we're being too loose with the money? I want to remember one thing. In my phone that my wife has, I have one there where U.S. News and World Report talks about why Johns Creek was selected as the safest, why we're selected as the best community. One of the things that it says is that we selected Johns Creek because partly it's the #1 safest city in the country. So I would like to show that to anybody that would like to see that. But look, I feel very proud of our community. I feel very proud of my service to this community. But our city needs leadership. And leadership requires integrity. And integrity requires the truth. And I don't know how you can lead without that. So, good, bad, or ugly, I am always going to tell you the truth. I have nothing to hide. On one hand, yes, I want to be reelected because I think that we have more good things to do. But I don't want this job so bad that I'll sacrifice my integrity for the truth to get it. And so you can either discern what is real and what is true, and you can make your decision. I'll be happy either way. I may be more happy. I don't know. Sometimes I think that life might be better not being mayor. Not that I haven't enjoyed tonight's festivities. This has been fantastic. But just keep it real. I want our community to be the best it can be. I know that together we can do that. We can continue to make it better and be the envy of all our neighbors and cities across the country. Thank you.
By the way, I was going to...
Ladies and gentlemen.
I asked that question. I'm sorry.
Ladies and gentlemen, now I'm going to ask you, can we have a round of applause for these two names?